of the Scott County Board of Commissioners to order. Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The agenda has been distributed, and we have it in front of us. There is one amendment to the agenda. We do not have new employee introduction today, number 6, because of the workshop that happened prior to the board meeting. Are there any other amendments to the agenda?
Madam Chair, I'll move approval of the agenda as amended.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as amended. Any discussion on that item? If not, please say aye if you are in favor of that motion.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. It's been a couple of weeks, I guess. The minutes of the July 16th, 2019 County Board meeting have been distributed. Does anyone have additions, corrections, or comments on those minutes?
I'll move those minutes.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the July 16th County Board meeting. Any discussion?
Madam Chair, is that, oh yeah, 16th, no discussion.
Were you there?
I was there. I
Good.
was thinking of Three Rivers
All
Type
right.
Snacks. My apologies.
All right. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Apparently I'm out of practice too, Madam Chair.
Well, good. Thanks for making me feel better. Item number 4, to approve the minutes of the July 11th, 2019 meeting, that joint meeting between Scott County Board of Commissioners and the Three Rivers Park District's Board. Any additions, corrections to those minutes or comments?
I'll move approval.
Second. I'll second those, Madam Chair.
All right. Any further discussion on that matter? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Excellent. We're on to the item on our agenda where we recognize interested citizens. If you're here to talk to the board about a matter not on the agenda, this is the time to please approach the podium, state your name and address, and let us know what's on your mind. Well, that's great. So seeing no one, we'll move on to the consent agenda, item number 7. These are items that have been previously discussed at workshop, sometimes discussed at advisory board meetings, and unless pulled from the consent agenda, will pass in one motion. Item 7.1, to approve the Minnesota Department of Health Community Health Board grant project agreements for Title V maternal and child block and follow-along program funds. Item 7.2, to adopt resolution number 2019-110, authorizing the private auction of public lands located in the city of Prior Lake, authorizing the basic sale price, and establishing the date of the private auction. Item 7.3, to adopt addendum number 1 to the 2019 Technical Assistance, Cost Share, and Incentives Program Policy Manual through the Scott Soil and Water Conservation District. Item 7.4, to adopt resolution number 2019-112, approving amendment number 1 to the 2019 to 2026 Scott Watershed Management Comprehensive Water Resources Management Plan. Item 7.5, to adopt resolution number 2019-113, authorizing a contract increase to the construction contract with William Mueller & Sons Incorporated in the amount of $344,125.60 for the 2019 overlay project. Item 7.6, to adopt resolution number 2019-114, authorizing the conveyance of tax forfeit lands located in the city of Elko New Market to the city of Elko New Market. Item 7.7, to approve payroll processing of personnel actions. Item 7.8, to approve the application for a charitable gambling permit for the Jordan Fire Department Relief Association. Item 7.9, to authorize staff to issue a hazardous waste storage facility license to Universe Solutions USA Incorporated, located at 4401 Valley Industrial Boulevard South in Shakopee, Minnesota. 7.10, to approve the preliminary plat of Lake Estates, Thompson Land LLC applicant and property owner, consisting of 16 lots and 2 outlots on 75.32 acres in Section River Township. And item 7.11 to approve the preliminary 19 and 30 of preliminary and final plat of Thompson Acres, Larry and Vicky Thompson, applicants and property owners, consisting of 3 lots on 60.93 acres in section 14 of New Market Township, and conservation easements. Those are the 11 items on the consent agenda. Any discussion on those items or any items you would like pulled for further discussion?
Madam Chair, I just have a comment. I'm not going to pull anything, so I don't know if you want it now or.
You could make the motion and then we could have the comment. How about that?
I will move the consent.
All right.
Second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion on the consent agenda. Commissioner Beer.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a brief comment on 7.2. This is an opportunity where a homeowner in Prior Lake really had no backyard, backed up to some county land, and came to our attention early this summer. And here we are seeing the county really in the best interest of a homeowner. Here we see this piece of land come up for public auction. I mean, it's quick, it's stunning, it's awesome. It shows the public that the county cares about people, and I'm happy to see this on here. I just hope that they buy it, because that would be awkward if somebody else outbid them. So that's the double-edged sword.
And private auction. You said public auction.
I'm sorry.
Private auction. Yep.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thanks for the
And it goes
correction.
back to the tax rolls, so helps everybody.
It's all good. It's a win-win.
Any
job.
other discussion on the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, I would just add that really goes to Cindy and to Jim Henches and to Mike Thompson. We received this email and this concern, and the staff did a really awesome job of taking a look at it and finding how we could try and get to a win-win for the county and for the neighbors and for the residents. So I think those 3 should really be commended on the work they did.
Great, thank you. Any other discussion on the consent agenda? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Moving on to item 8.1, to adopt resolution number 2019-115, authorizing a temporary project to draw down high water levels on McMahon Lake and amending the Scott Watershed Management Organization Special Taxing District 2019 budget to include an additional $30,000. Mr. Nelson presenting. Thank you.
Morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. This item and the next item are fairly similar, and I just wanted to geographically locate things for you to start with here. And I've highlighted there 2 lakes. The one to the south is McMahon Lake, subject of this first RBA, and then Markley Lake is a little bit further north, is in the city of Prior Lake, subject of the next one. So I have been prepping you this year and the last year about the issues with landlocked lakes and landlocked basins, and just the number of drainage issues in general that we handle. And this is something that we're sort of used to depending on weather cycles. And so within the WMO plan, we actually have a strategy for handling these types of situations or requests, which is for kind of localized stormwater improvements where there's not a managed outlet on something that affects the whole drainage as we get wetter. And again, it's not just these 2 lakes. We're seeing rising water levels on Kate's Lake, which is in Savage. We're seeing rising water levels on Krenz, which is also in township area, Lakeville area. That one has not risen to the same level here. Kate's Lake is something that City of Savage is looking at taking care of long term. But the strategy that we have for handling these things basically says we get them. The WMO getting involved decision is discretionary. And I've put that language in the RBA. And then we name some criteria. What's the public benefit? What's the cost? Cost effectiveness? Are there partners? Is it a priority? And so forth. And so for each of these, and I'll go through Markley later, we did that as a staff point. But at the end of the day, it is your decision. And so you can change the wording on these criteria. That's your discretion, your decision. But staff has put in what we felt we met with these various criteria. And as we look at McMahon Lake, there is public benefit from intervening. And we've talked about this previously a little bit, and at the last board meeting, you approved applying for an FDR, flood damage reduction grant, for a long-term solution. What we're talking about today is just a temporary solution to kind of take the edge off the high water of the lake, head off any possible impacts on septic systems, more damage to the shoreline. Though I believe Commissioner Wolf has been out there. The boat launch is not very usable at this point. The water level is high enough. And so in terms of public benefit, there is benefit from the general public in terms of being able to use the boat launch if we get the lake lower. There is public benefit because we've also invested quite a bit together with the shoreline owners to protect that shoreline around the lake. There's also public benefit because over the last few years we've worked on other water quality efforts on McMahon Lake and had it removed from the impaired waters list. It's improved. Having shoreline erosion and the pollution associated with that could offset some of that. It also, in terms of the criteria for priority, it is a priority water body in the WMO plan, and that's partly because it has access and is open to the public. It is rather urgent. I wouldn't say it's an emergency thing, but I'd say it's urgent. If it continues the way it is, you know, the only way water leaves that lake now is through evaporation or groundwater seepage. It could stay up. I'm not worried really about this fall, but next spring, we have snow melts again and so forth, it'll go back up and more damage. Possibly, you know, since we haven't had a drought in a long time, what happens is each year it's a little bit more unless we finally get a drought that resets some of this. And then we do have funding available in the WMO's fund balance. This is not in the budget for this year, so that action also includes a budget amendment. So with that, I will show you, here is the concept. Basically, this is the south end of the lake where there's the old fish hatchery. County Road 8 goes along the side. Mushtown Road goes north from there. That we would place a floating intake with a screen on it that would pump through a culvert here, and we'd have to, basically the pump would have to be strong enough to lift the water about 4 or 5 feet. So that's what makes it doable. It's not a high lift, and that's why it makes it less expensive than doing Markley. Markley, you got to lift the water 40 feet. And then it would gravity flow to a pipe under the culvert here and down this slope. The landowner has verbally acknowledged willingness to participate. We do have to get permits from DNR because they own the property here, or licenses, and they own the property here. And since this is a pretty steep slope, we'd have to put some pretty robust erosion control there in order to prevent that slope from eroding. And that's the concept. We picture pumping would be maybe 1 or 2 months, and it would be, what we're talking about now is 12 hours a day in order to avoid pump noises at night. You know, what noise going across the lake carries, so be respectful of the people in the area. And that's basically the concept. We thought for a while we might be able to put a siphon that it would basically pull, but we don't have enough drop to do a siphon. It would have to be pumped. So I'll stand for any questions.
Questions or comments? Commissioner Wolf, I know you were out there.
I was out there last night, and we have to do this. You know, it's something that's probably going to need to be done anyhow. And as I said to a number of people, there's, I don't know how many thousands of trees are on the outside there that are underwater, significant 100-year-old trees that are going to die. And they're already turning brown at the top if we don't get some of the water out of there, plus the safety concerns at the boat launch there. So with that, I'd make the motion to go ahead and do this project.
I'll second that motion.
Wonderful. Any other discussion on this matter? I guess I just want to say thank you to staff and I guess stress some importance on the criteria being used, because we're having many more of these water issues. Looks like we're going to continue to have more of them, and it's hard sometimes to not get involved in all of them because there's good people, good landowners everywhere. But I think it's really important that we we evaluate the public benefit, we evaluate our role, we evaluate who else can help with this. So thank you for that. I've learned a lot about water and drainage in the last few weeks, more than I think I wanted to know. And Paul, I guess my only question would be, thinking about that noise and the pump noise, I assume we're notifying as homeowners even further away to notify them about the pump and make sure they're all on board, so we're not dealing with calls later about the pump noise.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, we will be having another meeting with the landowners around the lake, so we'll let them know there. And also, as a requirement from DNR, in order to get their appropriations permit, we have to provide all the riparian landowners with the opportunity to express support. Not necessarily express opposition, which is very strange wording in the statute, but
Take any
so
support
we
can
will
get.
let them know.
All right, thank you.
So can I add one, so 12 hours a day, 7 days a week? Is that,
I'm not sure we've gotten that specific. It depends. We're talking with Joe Witta and Public Works staff to help us out with this. It depends on their schedule, whether 7 days a week or just their work weeks.
Yeah. Good question. Any further discussion on this matter?
Will this be, Madam Chair, diesel-powered pump, electric pump? I'm just curious.
I don't recall we're renting it because we don't have one
It must
ourselves.
be electric, or diesel
Yeah.
then, okay, thanks.
Not solar powered.
I was thinking of a windmill myself. but,
Any further discussion? It would be great if it could be either of those. I just was commenting. Any further discussion?
Evaporation is solar power,
It
technically.
is. Any further discussion? All in favor of this motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Mr. Nelson, tell us about Markley Lake, how it's the same and different.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, it's very similar. I think, though, if we look at the criteria, you'll see some differences. Probably not as much public benefit from involving here because there's not public access. There is a trail. There are issues if the water level goes up with impacts from septic systems and then sort of a public health perspective. And the residents are part of the WMO, pay taxes to that. I think the differentiator on this one is one of the criteria is partnerships. And it is my understanding the city approved up to a third cost share, and the township has already approved that as well. So we have partners that are actually making this request that to staff brings it up to a point where it's somewhat cost efficient. Second part of this is the city does want to look for a long-term solution. They're talking about doing the study or engineering for that probably in 2021. So there'll be more to come. Again, this is a temporary.
Any questions, comments, or discussion on the Markley Lake matter?
Madam Chair, Paul, you mentioned a 40-foot rise. We're going to push water 40 feet up before it goes down again? And where would the discharge be again?
That's my understanding. The discharge, there's an old sewer line that's not in use, and the city has used that before. So this is feasible. They did it in the late 90s. That basically is to the southwest of the lake and then daylights into a ditch that's in the township in the southeast of the lake, and then ultimately flows to the Credit River.
Madam Chair, Paul, could you put that map up you had there and just with your finger?
The
just
scale is going to be kind of small.
I know, but could you just kind of show us, just where?
Yeah, can you zoom in
Because
on
I
it?
thought I knew it was going to go, but now I don't know that.
The important thing is it's not going into Prior Lake, which we're also
Well, that's
having an
right,
issue
yeah.
with high water.
So here's the lake,
Yep.
and they would pump to this sewer line that's kind of in this southeast
Oh,
corner.
southeast, I see. Oh.
And then it
Gonna go down
drains
there,
to a
yep.
ditch that goes over to this channel that flows to the
Got it.
Credit River. And the amount of discharge they're talking about with that amount of pumping is pretty small. It's like 1 CFS, which is basically basketball size every second of water. But it's only a 20-acre lake, so it has much more effect than McMahon is 160 acres. That amount of water spread over 160 acres takes a little bit more pumping.
And one more thing, Madam Chair. So, and also this Krentz Lake over here on the right there, Paul, there's some problems there.
Yeah, it's over
Yep.
kind of in
On
this
the
area.
border there, yep. And they're having some high water problems too.
Yeah, and Township has kept me in the loop as they've had email conversations, and my understanding, they were looking to see what kind of outlet there would be, or whether initially they thought there was a pipe under a township road that was plugged. Now they're not sure whether there's a pipe or whether there was just some sort of gravel trench that served as an outlet. But that's being investigated, and I understand there's not as much impacted as the other lakes right now.
Further. Do
Was there a motion? I didn't
Do we have a
think so.
motion? I don't think, we don't have a motion
I
yet.
will make
so-
the motion to approve resolution number 2019-116.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 2019-116. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the motion, please say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. All right, we're on to item 9.1, an informational update on the Intensive Residential Treatment Services Facility bid process. Our CFO, Danny Lentz, will be presenting.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. So we did have a workshop that we held at 8 a.m. To discuss options for the Intensive Residential Treatment Services Facility bidding process. Back on June 28th, we did open bids for this facility. And on July 9th, the low bidder at $4.8 million was awarded the bid, but subsequently after that, they notified us that they had to withdraw their bid. One of their subcontractors wasn't able to perform at a price, and because of public bidding laws, we're not able to change that price, even though it would have been less. The purpose of the meeting was to discuss whether we wanted to go with the second low bidder or to rebid the project, as well as what we wanted to do with the bid bond or the bid security that the low bidder had to put up for the project. There was a lot of good discussion and information, and I believe education about what this process was. In the end, the board did provide direction to the CDA, who is actually executing this project, although the county is the ultimate owner of the project in the end, that they would like to go with or would recommend them deciding to go with the second low bidder, which was still within our project budget amount, although not as low as the low bidder, as well as only retaining the bid bond security to recover staff time costs and any professional services that we had to pay for, and releasing the rest of the bid security amount.
Good
That's it for
summary
any
of a long, intense, good workshop. Any questions, comments from the board?
Madam Chair, I thought it was a very good meeting, and we were able to speak frankly and honestly, and I think wisdom prevailed. Thank you for a good meeting.
All right, thank you for all your work on this project. Thank you to our partner, the CDA. We know there's been a few sleepless nights, as Mr. Jaffa said, but we're on track, and this will be a good thing. So thank you very much. On to item 9.2, Mr. Lentz also presenting to adopt resolution 2019-111, establishing the public hearing date of September 3rd, 2019 at or after 9:30 a.m. regarding the issuance by the Scott County Community Development Agency of bonds backed by the full faith and credit of Scott County to finance affordable rental housing for seniors. This has to do with the Brentwood Court 2 project in Jordan.
Good morning again. You're going to have me all morning. I apologize for that. So this is to finance the development of a approximately 59-unit housing development project for rental to low and moderate income seniors in the city of Jordan, to be known as Brentwood Court 2. The bonds will be secured primarily through the pledge of net revenues from the project and other amounts pledged by the CDA. This is really a secondary funding, and the purpose here is to provide a lower interest rate to the CDA, so that it'll actually make it more affordable for them, and more likely that the revenues from the project will actually support the total cost. So we do not expect any cost to the county from this. I would also note that this is just setting the public hearing. This isn't actually approving the bonds at this time, but just wanted to provide that clarification.
Thank you for that, yes. Lets people get it on their calendars. Comments, questions? Motion.
Madam Chair, I'll make the motion to adopt resolution 2019-111, establishing the public hearing date of September 3rd, 2019.
Second.
Right, it's been moved and seconded to adopt resolution number 2019-111. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. All right, we're on to committee reports and commissioner updates. Commissioner Wolf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the, we're going back to the 24th.
Yeah,
Yeah, 16th.
16th.
I don't think I have that day. And then so the 24th, we had the fair breakfast, very well attended. Nice, very nice ceremony. I had to leave a little early because I had a mosquito control meeting after that, St. Paul. Was at the fair most of the weekend. On Thursday, I was also at the Vermilion River Joint Powers Organization. We talked about our budget for the upcoming next year, 2020. Then they had the ribbon cutting for the, I'm gonna mess up the word, Hochakata tea. Michael, am I close to it?
I had it until you said that. That's
And I blew it for you.
Hochakata.
So, and then, also I met out at St. Patrick's, Church out, in Cedar Lake Township. They have a ballpark out there. It's been out there for a long time. They've had dugouts out there and they want to improve the dugouts. And, now they would have to put in handicap, and that park is kind of in a bowl, so it's gonna be very difficult to get that to happen. So I think we came up with an idea that they can make a little, like a parking lot where a handicapped person could get down there and then wheeled in and get into the dugout, so it would be accessible to everybody, which would be great. Also out at Elko New Market for their twice monthly meeting. Very quiet out there. On the 29th, met with the administrator, discussed some issues. On the 30th, we had the workshop. On the 5th, Prior Lake City Council had their workshop. They talked about some opioid litigation. They talked about, and also their upcoming CIP and tax levy. And then after that, I was out at Credit River where they talked about some of the water problems at Markley Lake and Krentz Lake. And then also after that, Cedar Lake had their meeting and very quiet out there. And then the workshop this morning. And that is my report, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Beard.
Thanks. On the 23rd, had our chair, vice chair. And then later that day also had a meeting with Three Rivers on some park concerns, not concerns, park things. And then I promptly had to go out of town to Peoria for softball, which is where everyone wants to go. So I missed the fair breakfast. I missed the grand opening, but when I returned, I went and paid my $7.50 general admission because I wanted to see that building.
Beautiful.
It really is. So I spent some time there that week. On the 30th, strategic budget meeting, and this morning we had our workshop, and that completes my report.
Awesome. Thank you. Commissioner Beard.
Madam Chair and colleagues, on the 16th, there was a meeting with our colleagues from Prior Lake, some Prior Lake staff, to talk about legislative possibilities for what amounts to a development impact fee. They're still working with that problem with how do you pay for growth and not spread it on the people who currently live in the city. It was a good discussion. On the 24th, I could not attend the fair breakfast or the mosquito control district, but I had to attend the Transportation Advisory Board as John's alternate. And the Met Council held a joint transit planning. It was kind of a desktop operation exercise down at the Met Council. That took 5 hours of that morning. Anyhow, the 25th, you want to know more about it, I'll be happy to talk offline. On the 25th, had lunch with Administrator Vermillion, talked about things going on in the city, and that afternoon, Hochakata ribbon cutting at Mystic Lake. It was a pretty significant event, beautiful facility. I was glad to be there. On the 29th, I chaired the Unified Transit Plan kickoff update for Scott County over at the Prior Lake Library, attended by representatives of every city and a couple of the townships, except for Elko and Belle Plaine couldn't be there that night. On the 30th, the County Board Strategic Planning meeting at Spring Lake City Hall. On the 1st, with Commissioner Ulrich, attended the Scott County Transportation meeting. We basically had updates on Minnesota Valley and our current transit services. that evening I had the privilege of attending Scott County Heritage Society's annual dinner at Turtles in downtown Shakopee, and this morning the workshop with the rest of you regarding the ERTs.
Thank you. Commissioner Ulrich?
On the 17th, I attended the Transportation Advisory Board meeting. The 28th, I led jail church services. 30th, the budgeting meeting that we all attended. My August 1st meeting with Leslie, and then the Transportation Committee, and the Fish Executive Committee after that. Fish is no longer tethered to the county in terms of technology, which is a good thing, because that will help us to be able to replicate Fish elsewhere, because we have our own technology, an own website, an own email system, so that's a good thing. On the 2nd, I attended the Scale Executive Committee. We're working on our 1-year goals, 3-year goals, and talking about the strengths and weaknesses. This is all kind of recapping the survey information, and we'll be presenting that to the full scale group this Friday. We also had a legislative roundup from Claire Roebling, and we're working on the first steps of establishing legislative priorities. And August 5th, the Mobility Management Board meeting at the transit station. That's into my report.
Great, thank you. It's been a busy couple of weeks for me. July 16th, attended the ProAct board meeting. Good board meeting. I think things are going well here at the Shakopee location. Just, of course, a little bit of concerned thought going into the future, you know, once what's going to happen with the building they're in 2 years when we move out, and just different options. So just talked through and renewed our commitment to them that we said we'd be providing them space through the end of the contract, and we will. And we'll do our best to minimize any disruptions and always give plenty of time and notice. So that was the discussion of that meeting. On Wednesday, July 17th, County Administrator Vermillion and I met in Belle Plaine with the mayor and the city administrator and our Met Council representative, Deb Barber. Deb and Belle Plaine haven't had a real regular connection, so it was important to connect them to hopefully further communication and make sure that Scott County is appropriately benefiting and getting our opinions across to the Met Council. So that was good. That evening, we had the community stakeholder meeting for the steering committee to end child abuse and neglect in Scott County. Even though it was a beautiful July evening, I think it was over 70, between 70 and 80 people from all over Scott County came. It was a good meeting. It's a bold and audacious goal. We're going to end child abuse and neglect in Scott County, but let's go for it. I mean, not only does it hopefully save kids and families, but it saves a lot of money. So I'm excited for that initiative. It's great to see so many people behind it. On Thursday, July 18th, I met with the new Scott County Historical Society Executive Director, Heather Hoagland. That evening had the Scott County Library Board of Trustees meeting. On Friday, July 19th, I had a meeting with Barb Dahl to discuss the Workforce Development Board, learn a little bit more about that funding and how that works in Scott County. Tuesday, July 23rd, the chair-vice chair meeting. Middle of the day, we had a meeting with some Three Rivers Park representatives just to talk about future potential parks in Scott County. And then that afternoon, a fish partner outreach meeting in New Prague, co-hosted by the mayor of New Prague and myself, trying to get the fish partners in New Prague together to talk about what's working for them and what they could use more of. Wednesday, July 24th, the county fair breakfast. Later that day, I had a meeting with staff to discuss some drainage issues on Marystown Road. And then met later that day with the mayor and city administrator of Jordan and the county administrator for our quarterly meeting. Thursday, July 25th, had a meeting with the group who's looking at possibilities for a domestic abuse shelter in Scott or Carver counties. Had the steering committee to end child abuse and neglect in Scott County, and then the SMSC Cultural Center grand opening. It's amazing. I'm not even going to try, guys.
I was going to say, you're not going to take a stab at pronouncing that. Huh?
Building. Friday, July 26th, I did a people mover shift at the Scott County Fair. I did not get in any accidents and successfully moved people in and out of the parking lot. On Sunday, the 27th, I judged the 4-H cook-off at the county fair. Nice. It was steak. It was very good. And I worked in the Scott County Fair booth. The 30th had the board workshop, and then on the 30th through the 1st, I was in Duluth for the state Workforce Development Board meetings. Learned a lot more about workforce developments, about our board, you know, our goal is to get even more and more people employed, and with the unemployment rate as it is now it's, you know, it's harder because it's people who for whatever reason aren't employed and have some barriers, and the more we can work to get them into the workforce, it benefits us all. Evening of August 1st, attended the Sand Creek Township Board meeting. Some issues there with some gravel hauling, some talk about driveway permits and how our new online process is still not perfect in working with the township. So there's a few things we can tweak on that. Saturday, August 3rd, I painted at Shakopee Middle School West with a group of faith communities and others who've been trying to freshen up that middle school. So I think I got all the gray paint off of me by now. And then had the workshop this morning. End of my report. Any
Can I just
questions
add
for
a-
anyone?
Madam Chair, can I
Yes.
just add two things? Tonight's National Night Out.
Yes.
And also our chair is on the front page of the Minnesota counties. That was you on there, right? Like
How do
over
I
here.
look?
Yeah, well, I think, yeah. Anyhow, this
Don't
got
answer
a
that.
huge circulation of like about 450.
And 3 people read it maybe. Well, thank you for noticing.
give
All
that
right.
to you.
I'll put it in my scrapbook, I guess. Yes. All right. Any other questions or just comments for any of us? All right. County Administrator update.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, 2 items that are off your board meetings. One is to remember the County Board Prior Lake City County Workshop. That will be on that Monday, the 19th. It's our second kind of roadshow with one of the cities. We'll go and see several projects that are going on within the community. We'll also go to Spring Lake Park and sit and have some discussions and have a picnic there. And then the second one is, remember, on the 27th of August at 9 o'clock at Carver County, we're going to have a work session with their board. We haven't done this for a couple of years. One on a couple really important items of the homeless and the sheltering, river crossings and flooding and what that means to our communities, and transit as well. So a couple things that we work with them
Just a thought on the Spring Lake picnic, when again?
on. That is the 19th.
If we know somebody on mosquito control, we might have them bring the fogger out there the day before. That's gonna be pretty buggy, but
Thank you for taking care of that.
sure, you're welcome.
Any other questions for Leslie? All right. Mr. Hosevar, any reason for us to meet at attorney-client meeting?
We do not, Madam Chair.
Yay, thank you. Any further business? Just a note that after the meeting, we'll again meet in a workshop. We have double workshops today to discuss per diems and employee benefit decision process.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried.